During my time at a remote Greenland base, we encountered something I still can't explain. I had signed up for this research grant with dreams of studying marine life and enjoying solitude. I thought the isolation would be peaceful. At first, it was. The first 2 nights felt normal. Then, on the second night, I woke up to a rhythmic tapping against the walls. I lay in my bunk, listening. It sounded like the ice shifting, or maybe an animal outside. I felt curious, but decided to wait until morning to check it out. The next morning, I brushed it off as nothing. But my team seemed off. They spoke quietly. I couldn't shake the feeling that they had heard it too. Days passed, and that tapping didn't go away. It felt different, though. It morphed into strange sounds. They felt almost human. Maybe I was just tired. The shadows in my room seemed longer, darker. Nights turned uneasy. The whispers on the wind rolled through my mind like thick fog. Equipment malfunctioned too. I told myself it was just the cold, but my gut said otherwise. Then the dreams started. They were disturbing and vivid. I dreamt of the tapping, of figures I couldn't see. I wondered, was it just me? My team started avoiding each other. Fear danced in their eyes, and that was scarier than the sounds. I thought about leaving early, but pushed the thought aside. I didn't want to look weak. One night, I stood at the window, staring at the endless white. It felt colder inside me, even with the warmth of my layers. Something nagged at my mind. Had we disturbed something buried under the ice? Doubts brushed against my thoughts. That evening, the tapping stopped. An eerie silence filled the base. It twisted inside me, thick and heavy. I looked around at my team. We were all tense, the air thick with unspoken fears. Then I heard it. A soft voice whispered my name. It curled around me, filling the dark space. I turned slowly, but there was no one there. I felt frozen, my heart pounding. Cold air brushed against my cheek. I stood there, eyes wide, scanning the room. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice trembling. Nothing answered. The silence deepened, each breath louder than before. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to shake off the fear. I told myself it was just my imagination. But as I stared into the empty dark, the feeling of being watched crawled over me. "Are you kidding me?" I muttered, half in disbelief, half in panic. What was this? I clenched my fists, fighting the urge to run. But the truth was, I felt trapped. My team was silent, their faces pale. I wished for the tapping to start again. At least that would mean there was something more familiar to fear. But it was just me and the vast darkness. I never found out what it was. I left the... When my grant ended, but the memories still haunt me. I can't forget that whisper. It still weaves through my thoughts like ice in my veins. The next morning, I woke up with a sense of dread that settled in my stomach like a heavy stone. The silence was deafening. No tapping, no whispers, just the quiet stretch of snow outside. My team was gathered in the common room. The air felt electric, charged with something unspoken. I could see worry etched on their faces, mirroring my own. "Did you hear that last night?" I asked, trying to break the tension. Their eyes darted around, avoiding mine. "Especially that voice?" Maya, our biologist, finally spoke up. "I thought I was losing it," she said, her voice shaky. "I kept hearing someone call my name. I thought it was you." Another team member, Simon, shook his head. "Same here. I heard it too, but it was different. It felt like it was coming from below us," he added, his face pale. That struck me. Below us. The creeping dread escalated. Was something buried in the ice? I felt like I was standing on a thin crust above a deeper mystery, one that could crack and swallow us whole. We decided to investigate the surrounding area during the daylight. Armed with flashlights and heavy gear, we trudged through the deep snow, searching for anything that could explain the events of the past nights.
There was an uncomfortable energy in the air, like static before a storm. As we walked, I couldn't shake the feeling of being followed. My eyes flicked back and forth, scanning the shadows. Suddenly, Maya stopped and pointed. "Look!" We gathered around her, and tucked into a small snowdrift was what appeared to be a piece of dark metal. It glinted under the sun, and my heart raced at the sight. It didn't belong there. It was too unnatural against the backdrop of ice and snow. "What is it?" I murmured, edging closer. "I don't know," Simon's voice trembled, "but we should take it back." We carefully extracted the object, brushing away the snow. It was flat and rectangular, with strange symbols carved into the surface. A chill ran down my spine. These weren't just markings. They felt ominous, pulsing with a weight of history. As we returned to the base, the air crackled with tension. What had we discovered? My mind raced with questions. Why was it buried there? And how did it relate to the whispers? That night, I dreamt again, but this time it was different. The tapping was replaced by a roar, a cacophony of voices that cried out in unison, drowning out my thoughts. I jolted awake, the image of the object seared into my mind. I felt terror wrapping around me, a cold hand gripping my throat. I rushed to the common room, desperate for comfort, but the room was empty. Then I heard it, that soft voice again, but louder this time.
Come back. The ice crackled outside, pulling me toward the door. "No," I whispered, backing away, but the voice grew persistent, urgent. Each syllable pulled at me like a thread. "Please don't go." I knew I had to end this. I had to confront whatever was out there, or it would consume us. I reached for my parka, prepared to step outside into the freezing darkness, but part of me hesitated. That hesitation was shattered when I realized the voice wasn't just calling me. It was calling us all. Something was in the ice, and it wanted to be heard. With one final breath, I braced myself for what lay ahead. I stepped outside, my breath visible in the freezing air. The darkness enveloped me, but the call continued, its grip tightening. "Come back." It felt like a plea, a demand. It echoed in my mind as I moved toward the edge of the base, where the snow met the treacherous ice. The wind howled, cutting through my clothing, but the cold was nothing compared to the dread churning in my stomach. The sounds grew louder, layering over each other like frantic whispers, all begging for my attention. I had to find the source. As I made my way away from the building, I glanced back, half expecting my team to come busting out, pulling me back. But there was only silence behind me. I pressed on, fueled by a mix of curiosity and fear. The snow crunched beneath my boots, each step heavy with anticipation. I arrived at the spot where we'd discovered the dark metal. It looked different in the night, the faint moonlight reflecting off it like a beacon. I knelt down, tracing the symbols. They felt alive under my fingers, vibrating with something intangible. My heart raced as I considered what they might mean. "Are you okay?" A voice broke through the cacophony. I whirled around to see Maya standing at the edge of my vision, her face pale and eyes wide with concern. "You shouldn't be out here alone." "I heard something," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "It's calling to us, to me. I can't explain it." She stepped closer, visibly shaken. "Me too. I thought it was just in my head. I thought you were calling me, but now—" Her voice trailed off, and I could see a reflection of my own fear in her eyes. Suddenly, Simon joined us, his breathing heavy. "What's going on? Did you guys find anything?" While Maya and I exchanged glances, I knew we couldn't hide what we'd discovered. "We found this," I said, gesturing to the object. It's not just metal. I can feel it." Before Simon could respond, the wind picked up.
and a low rumble echoed from the direction of the ice. I looked up, heart racing. "Did you hear that?" "Yes," Maya nodded, eyes wide. "It sounded like it came from below us." We all stood frozen, the reality
of our situation crashing over me. Whatever was beneath the surface was awakening. I could feel it in my bones, the ice beneath us shifting, groaning under pressure. I took a breath, ready to voice my thoughts, when suddenly the ground shook. We stumbled, instinctively moving closer together. The noise exploded into a roar, and an unnatural crack seized the silence. Snow sprayed everywhere as something broke through the surface, just beyond our line of sight. Panic bubbled inside me. "We need to go back!" But something in the shadows caught my eye. I squinted into the darkness. That wasn't just an illusion. It was a figure, looming just outside the reach of our light. I heard the voice again, clearer this time, urgent, pleading. "Help us." Just like that, everything shifted. The fear paralyzed us, but the desperation clawed at my insides. We were in too deep now. Whatever was in the ice wasn't letting go easily. Then, everything went dark. I felt the cold seep deeper into my bones as I blinked in the darkness. For a moment, I couldn't tell if my eyes were closed or if the world around me had disappeared entirely. My heart pounded in the silence. "Maya? Simon?" I called, my voice trembling. Nothing. I pushed through a veil of confusion, my hands outstretched. I needed to find them, needed to know they were okay. My fingers brushed against a cold, hard surface. Panic flared again. Where was I? I fought to stand, muscles stiff and unresponsive from the fall. The darkness pressed in, but the faint memory of the haunting voice remained. Help us. What had happened? Then I heard it, a rustling sound, barely audible beneath the whistling wind. I turned toward it, straining to listen. "Maya?" I tried again, louder this time. I took a tentative step forward, the crunch of snow breaking the stillness. "Over here!" A voice finally cut through the dark. Relief flooded me as I headed towards the sound. I stumbled into Maya, her breath warm against my cheek as I found her in the dim light. "Thank goodness!" she gasped. "I thought you were—" She stopped short, eyes darting around nervously. "Did you see it? That thing?" "What thing?" I asked, trying to hide my rising anxiety. "The figure. It just vanished when everything went dark," she replied, voice shaking. Simon appeared behind her, his face pale. "Where did it go?" he asked, looking over his shoulder. "What did you hear?" "Just a voice," Maya said, and I nodded. "It wanted help." Simon shook his head, frustration leaking into his words. "We shouldn't be out here. It's dangerous. We need to get back to the base, now." The wind howled louder, sending a shiver down my spine. A distant rumble resumed, more pronounced than before. The ice shifted again beneath us, and I felt it, a pulsing energy resonating like a heartbeat beneath the frozen surface. "Look," I pointed. A faint glow peeked through the snow, just ahead. Like a swallowed flame. The symbols we had touched were now illuminated, casting strange shadows. They danced, swirling in chaotic patterns that flickered against the ice. "What the hell?" Simon breathed, moving closer. The glow intensified, and the air grew thick as I felt drawn to it. My feet moved before I could think, lured by the warmth and light. "Maya, wait!" Simon called after her, but she was already stepping toward the light as if entranced. "Don't!" I yelled, but it was too late. Maya let out a small gasp as the light enveloped her. I reached out, but icy fingers of panic wrapped around me. "Get back!" Simon shouted, but I was frozen, caught in the brightness. What was this? I could hear the voice again, louder now, echoing through my mind. "Help us." Then, all at once, everything collapsed into chaos. The glow flared brighter, and the voice turned to a scream, cutting through the cold.
My instincts kicked in, and I darted forward, grabbing Maya's arm just as the light surged. A final pulse ripped through the ground, more powerful than before. The darkness swallowed us again, but this time it felt different, chilling, hostile. That was when I felt it, the ground beneath our feet shifting like the surface of water, uprooting everything we thought we knew. My breath caught in my throat as the ground rocked beneath us. I could feel the ice splintering like glass. My instincts screamed at me to run, but I couldn't move. I held on to Maya tightly, hoping she wasn't slipping away again. "Simon!" I shouted, but the noise of the shifting ice drowned my words. We were untethered, spinning in a maelstrom of confusion and fear. The faint light pulsed again, illuminating the dark with a terrible urgency, and for a second I thought I saw a silhouette rise from the ground. "What is happening?" Maya's voice trembled as she looked at me, fear mirrored in her eyes. "I don't know," I replied, forcing myself to focus. "We need to find Simon." Just then, another rumble echoed through the ice, sending a shockwave through my body. The brightness flickered, and the symbols glowed fiercely, their shapes morphing and writhing like they were alive. I closed my eyes, letting the energy wash over me, but I couldn't block out the whispering voice. "Help us." The voice echoed louder, vibrating through the ice beneath my feet. My mind raced. Who were they? What did they need? I felt pulled in two different directions, toward the light and the fear. "Maya, we can't stay here," I urged, finally breaking free from the daze and pulling her toward the direction where I thought we had come from. "We have to find Simon." As we stumbled, the world shifted again. It was disorienting, like running through a dream. Shapes flickered at the edge of my vision, darting in and out of the light. I could hear the sound of footsteps. Or was it something worse? "Maya, this way!" I shouted, spotting a glimmer in the distance. Maybe it led back to the safety of the base. But as we ran, the ground erupted beneath us. A fissure opened up, a jagged wound that swallowed the faint glow. The scream of the voice transformed into a roar, consuming everything in its path. I skidded to a halt, my heart racing as I drew Maya close. "Please, go back," a desperate voice came from the shadows. It was Simon. He was few yards away, teetering on the edge. His eyes were wide with terror. "You can't follow the light." The fissure widened, and the warmth we had felt before turned icy. I felt trapped in a moment that stretched endlessly, the shadows swirling, threatening to pull us all in. The voice grew frantic, as if sensing the danger. "Help! Help us!" With one last terrified glance at Simon and the now darkened glow, I made a decision. "We have to get to him," I shouted. "Maya, can you reach him?" "I think so." She took a step forward, but I pulled her back. The ice beneath us trembled once more, and it was clear. We couldn't risk it. That's when I saw it, a glint in the shadows. Something metallic, half buried in the ice, shining like a beacon. An object, maybe? Something we could use? I pushed away from Maya, drawing closer, my heart pounding in my chest. "Stay right there," I yelled at Maya as I carefully approached the fissure. My hands trembled as I reached down, feeling the cold metal beneath my fingers. An old compass, cracked and broken. Before I could even process what it meant, I realized the compass needle was spinning wildly, caught in the energy of whatever was happening around us. I looked back at Maya, my head swirling with possibilities. "Get Simon," I yelled, gripping the compass tightly. "I'll figure this out." But as I turned, the cold seeped into my bones once more, and the dark shadow loomed over me. Something was happening, something that felt far too powerful for me to control. Then, everything went dark again. I woke up with a jolt, my head pounding and my breath coming in quick gasps. The darkness around me was suffocating. I blinked rapidly, trying to adjust, but it felt like I was trapped in a heavy fog. My heart raced as I struggled to remember what had happened. Maya! I shouted, panic rising in my chest. There was no response. I reached out, my hands scraping against cold, uneven ground. I pulled myself into a sitting position, the ice beneath me cold and unyielding. As the fog began to clear, I noticed I wasn't in the fissure anymore. Instead, I found myself in a cavernous space, illuminated by an eerie blue glow that pulsated around the walls. Symbols adorned the surface, swirling in patterns that made my stomach churn. "Simon?" I called again, louder this time.
Desperation creeping into my voice. The echoes of my voice seemed to bounce back, intertwining with the whispers I had felt earlier. "Help us!" The same haunting voice, but now it sounded distorted and far away. It filled the cavern, vibrating through the air, and I could feel it in my bones. I scrambled to my feet, looking around to take stock of my surroundings. The glow came from crystals embedded in the walls, reflecting an otherworldly light that danced eerily. This place felt alive, as though the ice and the stone shared a hidden consciousness. "Where are you?" I muttered to myself, my mind racing. I had to find Maya. I took a few tentative steps towards the source of the glow, clutching the compass tightly in my hand. It was still spinning, indicating a direction that didn't make sense. Then I saw it, a shadow flickering at the edge of my vision. I spun around, squinting into the darkness. My heart raced again, and I took a step back. Was it Simon? Maya? I dared to call out again, my voice trembling. I was met with silence, but the shadows seemed to shift. I felt as if the walls themselves were watching, and I was the intruder in this hidden place. With a sudden urgency, I pressed forward. The soft thrum of energy resonated louder as I moved, wrapping around me like a shroud. I felt a tug, as if something deep in the cavern was calling out to me. My fingers brushed against the surface of a crystal, and I shivered. It felt like touching ice, but there was warmth beneath. "Simon! Maya!" I yelled, my voice echoing in the emptiness. My pulse quickened with fear and frustration. What if they were gone? What if I was all alone? Just as I began to doubt, I heard a muffled voice. "Help, please!" It was Maya. Relief surged through me, but it was quickly shadowed by fear. Where was she? There was no time to waste. I started moving toward the sound, my heart pounding. Then the ground shook again, not just beneath my feet, but all around me. Cracks splintered through the ice flooring, and the glow intensified, forcing me to shield my eyes. It was as if the entire cavern was alive, responding to our presence. I stumbled back, fear surging through me. "Maya, I'm coming!" I pushed forward, but the ground trembled, making it hard to keep my balance. Suddenly, a crack opened up in front of me, widening like a mouth ready to swallow me whole. I barely had time to react before I was falling into darkness. As I dropped, I could hear her voice clearly now, pleading, "No, don't leave me." Then I hit the ground, and everything went black again. I blinked my eyes open, disoriented. My body ached from the fall, and the cold seeped into my bones. I was lying on what felt like a damp surface. The air was heavy, thick with an unnatural chill. Gradually, the blue glow returned to my vision, its faint light illuminating the rocky floor around me. I pushed myself up, panic rising again as I took in my new surroundings. It was another cavern, but it seemed smaller, more cramped. The same swirling symbols lined the walls, but they felt closer now, almost like they were closing in on me. "Maya!" I called out, my voice cracking. Echoes twisted around me, and I felt completely alone. The previous warmth I had briefly felt near the crystal was gone, replaced by a gnawing, desperate chill. Then I spotted a figure huddled in the corner, half obscured by shadows. Heart racing, I rushed toward it. "Maya?" As I drew closer, I realized it wasn't her. It was just a pile of debris, ice and rock that had fallen from the ceiling.
My heart sank. No, no, no! I stumbled back. I had to find her. Somewhere in this labyrinth of ice and stone, she had to be close. A wave of urgency jolted through me. I took a step toward the opening I had fallen through, but halted when I heard it again. A voice soft and breathy, unrecognizable. "Help! Where are you?" I whispered, fear tightening my throat. I felt like an intruder in a sacred place, and the walls seemed to shift around me, breathing with a life of their own. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath me again. I dropped down into a crouch, clutching the rock formation for balance. An ominous crack echoed through the air, and I looked around, my heart racing. Whatever force stirred this cavern, it was becoming restless. That's when I saw it. A faint, pulsating light farther down the cave. It flickered like a candle in the wind, but also felt like a beacon. I needed to reach it. As I moved cautiously towards the light, I found my instincts sharp. Every noise echoed like a warning, every shadow a potential threat. The whispers amplified, more distinct now, swirling around me like a whirlwind. "Help! Find her! Who are you?" I shouted into the darkness, my voice rising with desperation. The answers eluded me like the light I chased, and I felt trapped in this abyss, with only questions to guide me. I pushed forward, the trembling ground beneath me like a living entity. Then, as I reached the flickering light, I crashed into an icy barrier. I yelped as I stumbled backwards, my heart sinking. Before I could collect my thoughts, I heard the voice again, clearer this time. "Maya!" But it wasn't just a call. It was followed by faint screams, echoing through the cavern. My blood ran cold. The fear surged within me. I was running out of time. I had to find her before it was too late. With renewed determination, I clutched the compass, which now pointed steadily in one direction. Whatever lay ahead might be my only chance. "I'm coming, Maya!" I shouted, my resolve hardening against the eerie stillness. But as I took a step forward, shadows danced along the walls, and the whispers crescendoed to a deafening roar. I froze, my pulse echoing in my ears. Something else was with me in the darkness. I could barely breathe as the whispers merged into a singular voice, growing clearer by the second. It echoed with a chilling promise. "You shouldn't have come here." Then everything went dark again. I jolted awake, senses on high alert. The darkness felt heavier this time, like a weight pressing down on me. My pulse thudded in my ears. I quickly glanced around. The cavern had transformed into a foreboding labyrinth of ice and jagged stone. That pulsing light was nowhere to be found. "Where?" I managed to whisper, my voice barely above a breath. I scrambled to my feet, hoping to find a way out of this nightmare. But the ground felt uneven beneath me, slippery, treacherous. Suddenly, a noise shattered the silence. It was faint at first, like the distant sound of water dripping, but then it morphed into muffled cries. The realization hit me hard. Those cries were human. Someone was in pain, and I had to help. "Maya!" I yelled into the void, my heart racing. I wasn't sure what drove me, the fear of losing her or the urgent need to uncover what had happened. The calls grew louder, echoing back to me, distorted and horrific. I stumbled toward the sound, moving carefully over the uneven surface. The air grew colder, with an unnatural chill settling deep into my bones. "Please, hold on!" I shouted again. The walls seemed to constrict, tightening around me as I forged deeper into the darkness. The cries sounded like they were coming from different areas of the cavern, casting me in confusion. I expelled frantic breaths, my legs starting to feel heavy, but I pushed through. The freezing sensation overcoming me. That's when I spotted it, an archway carved into the ice, jagged and rough. Just beyond it, the air shimmered oddly, as if something was distorting reality. I could almost feel a tremor beneath my feet, urging me forward.
I stepped through, adrenaline driving me. Inside, the flicker of soft light returned, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The source came from what appeared to be a small crystalline structure, glowing with a milky luminescence. It was beautiful, yet unsettling. Without thinking, I reached out toward it. The moment my fingers brushed the surface, a surge of energy coursed through me. Visions flooded my mind, images of Maya, trapped and frightened, surrounded by swirling shadows. The screams amplified, filling my head with chaos. "Let her go!" I cried out, pulling my hand back. The visions halted, and I staggered away, gasping for air. The cavern felt alive, the walls vibrating with force. Panic rose as I realized I was not alone. Dark shapes began to materialize in the corners of my vision, figures cloaked in shadow, their faces obscured. "Let her go." Their voice echoed, a whispered command wrapping around me like a cold fog. I backed into the crystalline structure, its chill burning against my skin. "What do you want?" I shouted into the darkness, desperation clawing at my throat. But the only reply was the sound of the ice shifting ominously as a figure stepped closer, a glint of something malevolent glowing in their eyes. I turned to run, heart racing wildly. I had no time to waste. I needed to find Maya before whatever these beings planned became a reality. A sharp pain cut through my side, and I stumbled, pain ripping through me as I tumbled to the floor. Lying there, gasping, I reached for the compass. It spun erratically, utterly chaotic. Time was slipping away. I needed to figure out where I was, what they wanted, and how to escape. The answers waited just beyond my grasp, but shadows pressed in, unyielding and unrelenting. And then I heard her voice again, faint yet persistent. "Help!" It was coming from somewhere behind the darkness, from a place where fear and hope intertwined. I had to follow it, but as the shadows closed in, a realization dawned. There was no way out without confronting whatever held her captive. Then a chilling laugh echoed through the cavern, and I knew I was about to face my worst nightmare. I ran, each breath heavier than the last. The shadows danced around me, whispering and curling, making it hard to keep my focus. I had to reach Maya. I couldn't allow these dark beings to take away the only thing that mattered to me. The cries were growing louder, more agonized, and they fueled my desperation. Turning sharply, I darted down an icy corridor, the sound of shuffling feet behind me echoing like a heartbeat. My pulse raced as I glanced back. Nothing visible yet, but the sensation of being pursued clung to me like a second skin. I pushed myself harder, slipping once but catching myself just in time. As cold as it was, adrenaline kept me warm. Then I skidded to a stop. The corridor opened up into a vast chamber filled with strange glowing crystals. They pulsated with an inviting blue light. That soft glow felt almost comforting, but I had learned my lesson. I couldn't trust appearances here. The cries, now almost deafening, seemed to emerge from the far side of the chamber. "Stay strong, Maya," I shouted, my voice breaking the unnatural stillness of the place. I hurried toward the source of the sound, my feet echoing against the ice. The brightness from the crystals reflected off the walls, creating patterns that twisted and flickered like ghosts. As I closed the distance, I could see a figure in the distance, a silhouette against the glowing backdrop. It was Maya, tied to a sinister, shadowy construct. "Maya!" I gasped, heart stuttering. Her expression was a mix of fear and relief, but the bindings around her glowed with an ominous light. Each pulse seemed to draw energy from her, stealing her strength. The laughter returned, this time clearer and more chilling than before. "You shouldn't have come here," it taunted. "You cannot save her." I clenched my fists, fury igniting within me. "Let her go! You have no power over us!" The words poured from me, fueled by a resolve I didn't know I possessed. As I took a step forward, the shadows surrounding Maya writhed.
Tendrils of darkness shot toward me, icy and suffocating. I ducked just in time, but one snaked around my ankle, dragging me backward. I felt that familiar pain flare up inside me, like icy needles puncturing my skin. "No!" I screamed, gritting my teeth against the pain. The shadows pulsed with a malevolent energy, and I could feel their malicious intent, their hunger for despair. But despite my situation, a glimmer of hope struck me, a flicker of that initial energy from the crystalline structure. Maybe I could channel it. Grabbing hold of my courage, I forced myself to concentrate. I reached deep within, pulling on everything I had, my memories of Maya, the connection between us. The bindings of fear I had felt moments before began to loosen. A surge of energy flooded me, a warmth against the encroaching cold. The laughing stopped abruptly, replaced by something akin to fear. The shadows hesitated. I focused harder, visualizing the light that could break their grip. I felt the weight around my ankle weaken just enough for me to twist and yank free. Without looking back, I rushed toward Maya, determination fueling my every step. "Hold on!" I shouted as I reached for the shadows binding her. I could feel both of us drawing from the bright light surrounding us, resonating with the crystals. Then, with a final surge, I pulled her away from the darkness. The moment our hands connected, the chamber erupted in a blinding flash. I didn't know what would happen next. Would the shadows retaliate, or had we escaped their grasp? But standing there, tethered to Maya, I felt a flicker of something triumphant, the start of a reckoning. Just then, everything went dark. I woke again, this time lying on the icy floor of the cavern. Dazed and disoriented, I blinked against the dim light that flickered around me. The sounds of the outside world had faded to an eerie hush, leaving only the whisper of the wind as it slipped through unseen cracks in the ice. "Maya?" I croaked, panic gripping my chest as I pushed myself up. The cavern felt empty, shadows lingering in corners that seemed just a bit too long. I squinted through the gloom, eyes searching frantically. "Maya!" A rustle behind me made me turn. There she was, peering from behind a slab of ice, her face pale, but eyes wide with relief. "You found me!" She rushed forward, throwing her arms around me. I thought we were lost." I wrapped my arms around her, relief flooding through.
"I didn't think I'd ever see you again," I whispered, the enormity of what we'd faced crashing over me in waves. Yet, as we held on to each other, the reality of the cavern loomed over us like an unshakable weight. "Where are we?" Maya asked, trembling. I could feel the warmth of her breath against my cheek, but the chill of the cavern still nipped at my skin. "I don't know, but I think we've escaped whatever was after us," I said, hoping to lend her some of the bravery I felt must be forming within me. "But we need to get out of here before it comes back." As I inspected the cave, I could see the glowing crystals were still around us, pulsating gently. They gave off a strange kind of comfort, but I felt an undeniable pull to leave their light. Without thinking, I reached for Maya's hand, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. We moved forward carefully, hearts synchronized in our thudding beats. The sounds of dripping ice echoed around us, bouncing off the walls. I paused, my breath stopping short as I detected another sound, a soft whisper that tugged at my focus. "Help us, please." The voice was familiar, unsettlingly familiar. "No," I breathed, fear clawing at me. Had we really escaped if the voice still lingered? "Maya, did you hear that?" I asked, looking back at her, my chest tightening. Her face mirrored my own uncertainty. "What is it?" she replied, her voice barely a whisper. "The whispers, they're still here." The air grew colder, heavier, as I turned my head toward the shadows. I squared my shoulders defiantly. Whatever it is, it's not done with us. The whispers twisted, growing more insistent, more desperate. "Help us,
Find us. I looked at Maya. There's something else here. We can't just leave. We have to know the truth. What was down here? It wasn't just curiosity. It was a compulsion that ran deeper than fear. Are you sure? She asked, hesitating. But I knew we couldn't leave the voices unheard. We have to try, I breathed. For them. Reluctantly, we angled deeper into the cavern, moving towards the indistinct source of the beckoning whispers. An unseen force gripped my heart, guiding us through the winding passageways. The air shifted, a strange energy binding us to the shadows surrounding us, as if they held both secrets and promises. Ahead, a larger chamber opened up. There, the ground swirled with the same symbols we had encountered throughout our journey, each pulsing rhythmically in time with our quickened breath. It was both captivating and terrifying. Is this? Maya trailed off, her eyes scanning the room in disbelief. Maybe it's where they are? I suggested hesitantly. The whispers grew louder and more frenzied as we stepped deeper into the lightless chamber. Help us, echoed all around us, a symphony of pleading voices. Just beyond us emerged ghostly figures, half-formed against the walls. Their faces were obscured, but their eyes glinted with recognition. They seemed trapped within the ice, forever bound to the realm we now inhabited. Maya, I gasped, backing away. What are they? Are they the ones from our dreams? She whispered, eyes wide with terror. Help, the voices repeated, sending chills racing up my spine. Each plea felt like a thread trying to pull us closer, but panic surged anew. I thought about turning to run, to escape the surrounding shadows, but a surge of compassion anchored me. We cannot ignore them, I said, a mix of fear and sadness in my chest. They're lost and alone. Maya nodded, though uncertainty reflected in her eyes. But how can we help them? It was then that I spotted it, the compass, still warm beneath my fingers, pointing steadily towards the crystal in the center of the chamber. I think it wants us to set them free, I suggested, my heart racing at the enormity of the task ahead. Before Maya could object, I reached for the glowing crystal, allowing the warmth to spread through my body. Memories touched the surface, visions of what had happened in these caverns, shadows reaching out in desperation, and the loss that surrounded them. As I grasped the crystal, the whispers turned into a scream, a cacophony of emotions that thundered against the walls. The shadows clenched tighter, and I prepared myself. If my presence could bridge the gap between the living and the lost, it was worth the risk. Let them go, I shouted, channeling my feelings of defiance and fear, letting them blossom into a battle cry against the encroaching shadows. The light enveloped the chamber as the ground shook violently, shaking loose the fragments of ice that surrounded the figures. As warmth poured from the crystal, I felt the atmosphere change, like a dam breaking free. The cries shifted from despair to relief. The shadows flickered, morphing into indistinct shapes that pooled around us, desperate yet hopeful. You've come, they whispered, to find us. With a surge of energy, the crystal pulsed brighter, illuminating each reflection of the figures that slowly began to emerge from the walls. One by one, they stepped into the light, breaking the remnants of being trapped, their eyes filled with gratitude. I can see you, my voice came out weak, disbelief cutting through my thoughts. What is happening? Maya asked beside me, eyes wide. I could feel their presence now, lost souls who sought understanding, comfort in their solitude. The whispers calmed to soothing tones, reverberating with acceptance. Help us, they echoed, but this time the plea felt different. It transformed into a shared understanding, a gratitude that spiraled around us, weaving warmth back into the cold stone. As the last figure emerged, the room filled with light, radiating like dawn breaking through the endless night. Maya squeezed my hand, and for that fleeting moment, clarity washed over me amidst the chaos. The past echoed softly, punctuated by the forging of new connections. Then, just as quickly, the light subsided.
And the figures stepped back into the shadows. The whispers faded, leaving behind only a gentle hum in the air. But as the echoes extinguished, questions lingered. Who were they, really? What would happen now? I glanced at Maya, uncertainty written across her face. I don't know if we helped them," I said softly. She looked down, tracing her fingers on her arm. "But we tried. Maybe that's enough." In the silence that enveloped us, we turned to leave. As we retraced our steps, the compass steadied, pointing towards the passageway beyond. I knew we couldn't stay forever. We had found a way through the darkness, yet the weight of all we had witnessed felt heavy in my heart. Outside, the icy winds greeted us, a stark reminder of the world beyond. We stepped away from the cavern, the light of day illuminating the desolation surrounding us. I turned back for one last look at the entrance to the ice-bound labyrinth, uncertainty still lingering in my mind. Would we ever understand what had truly happened? The cold air struck across my face, but as I breathed in the crispness, I felt something shift within me. A quiet acceptance mingled with trepidation, setting the stage for all that would follow. I glanced at Maya, her brow furrowed in thought. "I guess we'll never really know," I said quietly. "No," she replied, the wind carrying away her words into the vast whiteness surrounding us. We took a step forward, uncertainty following our every move. The echoes of the past would stay with us, unanswered questions trailing like specters at our heels. The journey had just begun, and with it came the weight of possibilities still waiting in the shadows.